had complications before. I had some issues, some health issues. And it just the food poisoning just um, made everything worse. I was leaving my body and I was by myself. So I was by myself. I didn't know how sick I was. I was kind of like in this other space realm dimension.
Hmm.
And because when I was up there, that's what I'm going to say, like up there, I had a body. Now I had a body there and I had a body here. They call it the music of the spheres, the music of creation. You can call it the language of light. You can call it the ancient Suffigio scale because when I came back, I s- I did start singing.
I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have Shekina Rose on with us today. She has had a near-death experience, or maybe multiple, maybe different experiences. I haven't really dug in just yet. We're going to dig in together. And she also is a fellow musician. So we're going to talk about all the different things you do. But Shekina, thank you so much for joining us today on The Soul Inspired.
Thank you, Joe.
We had a little bit of an intro there talk, and we were trying to get the lighting right because you had the sun beaming in. So I generally try to start the conversation because I look at who you are now and I've just gotten a little bit of who you are, but I'm trying to find out when your first experience was and possibly who you were before that. Some people talk a little bit about their childhood, or sometimes it doesn't happen till later in life, so they talk about who they were before the transition of understanding a little more about themselves. Just wonder if we can dig into when that first experience was and kind of who you were growing up.
Hmm. I kind of feel that I it was always there. My sensitivity, I'm a sensitive empath. Um, I starseed. I knew about this before I had my near-death experiences, and I had different kinds of awakenings, and then I had my near-death experience, which those just shifted me completely, I feel. Um, and before that, um, it was interesting. I had my first awakening when I was like in my really early 20s, and it was just because I started, meditating, and also I was meditating, and I started going like deep into, meditation. I wanted to learn how to do that, and as I did, it was interesting. What happened is that as I started connecting more and more to the essence of who I truly was, right? And connecting to the other, realms in my spirit was then things started coming up from like trauma from my life. And it was that was my spiritual healing. It was that to go deeper into who I was meant that I had to heal those traumas that I had been
Mm.
through, through my family. And because they just all of a sudden as I was going deeper into, meditation with spirit, they would just come up, and I had to heal them. And then but my spirit guides kind of came in um pretty soon. I was kind of surprised that as soon as I started meditating, it was like they were there, and they would speak to me, and they started guiding me. And I had a guardian angel that would guide me, and she was really available there for me as I went through like a purging and a healing process. And I did, and I went through this process, and my guardian angels one guardian angels was just really, really there. And so I went deep into healing,
Hmm.
and that healing kind of brought me being such a sensitive empath as to kind of wanting to be a healer, early because of going through all this healing. So I was, spiritual and open, before that, before my near death experiences. But then after my near death experiences, things changed. Like
Right.
things immediately changed. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I have a question before we get into the near-death experience there. When you said your spirit guides started showing up and helping you heal through your trauma, just for people listening out there, because there might be people who do meditation. I'm trying to get more into it myself. How do you recognize when your spirit guides are showing up? How did you recognize them? Did you see them? Was it visual? Was it audible? Was it just a knowing?
It was really audible. And I didn't know, back then about clear audience or the clairs or how to connect. And I kept, okay, I'm also very clear sentience, very empathic. So I could feel her. I could feel her. And in the beginning, I remember saying, because so much was happening to me, because it was like I was newly kind of awakened, um, that couldn't, I wasn't for sure about the noise, if it was me or if it was her.
Mm.
So I asked her, I said, can you help me so that I know that it's you? And so she, um, she started singing to me, and she would, to make the difference, she would take, a song from any kind of, any kind of lyric from a song, and she would sing that to me. And so that I would know that that's her. And then the chatter, sometimes you have chatter in your head.
Mhm.
And so the first time she came, there was this commercial. This was like back in the olden days. She said it was an, I don't know, a phone commercial. And it was something like, I'm calling you. So she she did that, like, I'm calling you. And I felt it, and I knew that it was her. So she would start to communicate to me that way, and I knew the difference because I could feel it and I
Okay.
could hear it. We had our little way of how she would communicate with me. The thing is though, I went into such a deep kind of healing. I mean, it was deep. And at the time, I went to counseling because I felt I needed counseling, because what happened, it just like started to come up. Like
Mm.
all the trauma that needed to heal was like in my face. And she told me that I needed to focus on that I need to focus on this kind of healing, because this was my spirituality. Like,
Mhm.
this is how I would evolve in my spirit and be more connected. Because at the time, I didn't have much visualization. I couldn't see well, and but I could hear well, and I could sense well. So that's how it came in. And then my other guides started to come in as well, eventually.
Yeah.
My star family. But it was first my one guide. And I have to say, in the beginning, she was so close to me. We were just inseparable. And she was always there for me when I to go through this healing trauma. And then but eventually I got stronger, and she told me that I would need to go on my journey, continue to go on my healing journey, my, spiritual journey, but it would be in a different way, that I wouldn't be focusing so much on, anymore on the trauma, um, that it would be more expansive in other ways. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So a few just a few quick points here. So what I got from what you said is you recognized, so you were going through your meditations, it became more of a regular practice, and you recognized audible messages. But see, I think where a lot of people stop is look at these messages and they won't decipher the difference between their own thoughts, feelings, or the things they hear and something coming from somewhere else. So they don't communicate with what they're hearing. It sounded like the big takeaway I got from that was that you started to communicate with your guides. And because you started communicating, you started to understand that it was your guides, not just yourself. That's a big piece. And then on top of it was the healing, that the healing needed to happen in order to keep growing
Mhm.
spiritually. So
Mhm.
that helps. So I was always curious about that because I know a lot of people meditate and they may meditate and not know whether it's their own thoughts or if it's messages coming from somewhere else. So that really helps. I think just like in real life, communication is key. We need to be able to communicate. And if we're not communicating, then we can't get anything, right? So leading up to you said that it started with this meditation, and then it was once you hit the near-death experience when things, and we can revisit that in a moment, but I wanted to know how the near-death experience came about. Like, were you going through, was it a sudden experience, or maybe just lead us up to that moment when it happened, and you can walk us through it if you'd like.
Yeah, I didn't, yeah, I wasn't ill.
Mm,
Not, this is, it wasn't anything that I was expecting at all. Uh, I had, I got food poisoning.
mm,
Um, Now I had complications before. I had some issues, some health issues. And it just, the food poisoning just um, made everything worse at the particular time. It's like everything kind of like came together at one point. It was not a good time for me in my with my health, but my health wasn't that terribly bad, okay? And but the food poisoning put so much stress on me that I I was leaving my body and I was by myself. So I was by myself. I didn't know how sick I was, and it took, most of the day, but I just started leaving my body. I I was so sick that I went to the other side. So I had no idea. I had no idea that
wow.
this was going to happen. Um, and as it was happening, I was so dehydrated, and you know, I was by myself, and I just it was interesting because I was like I was in and out of it. I would just kind of like leave almost or go to sleep or something like that. And but as this was happening, it was interesting that it was like I was remembering. I felt like I was remembering that it was like riding a bike.
Mm,
Like this is just this natural process that happens when this happens. And it was like I was in that state. There were times where I was still present, on the earth plane because I would fluctuate back and forth. Um, but I remembered. But something happened to even in the room that I was in. I mean, it was like there was a portal that opened up and I could feel a presence. And the presence that was there also, I felt like reassured, like a really good friend. And it's like that portal opened up and I was just like in and out of it, maybe with consciousness and I started going up to the light. I just went up right to the light. I didn't go
wow.
through a tunnel or anything like that. I went straight to the light and then I was in the light.
Wow. So thanks for sharing that first moment there. I've had food poisoning and I know how bad it got. I've had it one time and I actually remember laying on my bathroom floor and I thought, oh, I could go. This isn't good. And it was just a split moment that I thought it. And then it's almost like I went, no, no. And then I just kind of got better. I never had any experience, but I do know that it can be quite dangerous. Um, so it's not surprising to hear that actually. Like, So you said you started leaving your body, and then of course you go into this light. Before we get there, do you remember watching your body? Did you see your body at all, or were you just leaving? Like, what was the visual like? Did it look like this?
It was interesting because I had, like, I went straight to the light. And every time I have a near death experience, I always go to the light and I just go straight to the light. And when I was in the light, I was like at the line of the light. I hadn't fully submerged into the light. I was at the line and here was the light. I was kind of like in this other space realm dimension.
Hmm.
And because when I was up there, that's what I'm gonna say, like up there, I had a body. Now I had a body there and I had a body here. And because there were times when I felt like I would come back into, or I was more present in my body. And then I was so sick that I just like left. Like my body couldn't sustain myself anymore. And then I would leave. But I remember because when I was up there, I still had a body, maybe a different kind of body, but I felt like myself. And because I mean, a lot happened in the light, but there was a point where a lot had happened and I did a lot of things communing with the light. And so there was a point where I was ready. I was ready to to leave. And because it's natural and you're different when you're there. Um, you remember it is home and it is love. And I was going to step in. I remember that I was going to step into the light. And I remember that like I knew things. I knew that if I took one leg and I crossed over into the light, if I just a little bit, that would mean there was no turning back. And so I knew that I somehow I had like a presence of my
Hmm.
being. And but something happened before that, and from my soul and my spirit that brought me back into my body. I there was being in the light for so I was in the light for quite some time, and I have no idea how long because I was by myself. I was
Right.
at home and I was by myself, so I know it was hours and hours and hours and had gone by. Um, and when I was there, I'm communing with the light and it's telepathic and we're communing and it's beautiful and we're talking about a lot of things. And yes, I am experiencing my life as well because I feel that I'm crossing over to the other side. And I wanted to make sure that everyone would be okay in my life if I was gone. And so I was able to do that. I was able to review all the people of my life and to um, see how they would be like in the future with me not being there. And I was able to do that to see all the people. And I came to the understanding or the feeling that it would be okay if I left. There wasn't anyone who was completely dependent upon me, and I was able to sense the future with each of my relationships that they would be okay. And because that was my feeling and my concern. And as I was going to cross over, because they told me that it was my choice, that I got to decide, that it was up to me what I
Mm.
got to do. And I was going to step over and cross over. And because I was there, because I was re-emerged back in the essence, back in the presence. back in the music, back in the sound. But it was natural to do this. Like for me, like it was just natural to experience that again. I wasn't even cognizant of what was happening because basically I was communing with the light. We were having conversations, we were talking, and I also saw things too. I did see heaven, and uh I saw I saw at least seven heavens.
Wow.
Uh I looked, it was like I was at the line of the light, and there was it was almost like a lot of creation. And I remember that I looked down over to my right, and I just went, it was like natural too, right? I just went, ah, oh, there's heaven. Well,
Hmm.
not just one heaven, many, many heavens, like stacked up on top of each other. I'm like, oh. And so I
Hmm.
was submersed in that music, that sound, that frequency. And because of that, something in it was something higher. It was something of my soul that brought me back. Like when before stepping into the light, that was the only thing that kept me to in my body to bring me back. Is I just went, I want to I want to sing.
Yeah.
I want to bring this, I want to do this music.
Wow.
And but I never was into music. I
Hmm.
never sang before. I never knew music before. But there it was different. It was just, it awakened something of, now I realize that it's of my soul, of like my soul expression. And when I experienced that, all of a sudden, when I experienced that music like that, it woke me up, and I just said, no, I want to do this. I want to sing in this. And it brought me back in my body. And I felt like I went really from a very, very, very far place and plummeted right back into my body. And that, that did it. Like somehow that brought me back pretty much. I mean, it was still challenging to be fully conscious. I had synchronistic events happen. I My partner at the time had a couple cancellations, and he worked an hour and a half in Miami, and he never had cancellations, but he did on that day, and he came back early to find me laying on the bed pretty much looking white.
Wow.
Not able to really speak. I couldn't speak because I don't know, because I was maybe so long out of my body,
Hmm.
and I was so dehydrated that I couldn't even speak well. But he was a doctor of Oriental medicine. He also knew how I feel about doctors. I had a thing about going to doctors. So he just looked at me, and he just kind of started rubbing my limbs to try to help me like come back.
Hmm.
And yeah, and
Wow.
that's what brought me back, was this incredible frequency. They call it the like the music of the spheres, the music of creation. You can call it the language of light. You can call it the ancient Suffigio scale, because I sing when I came back. I s- I did start singing and doing sound healing, and I sang in all of that. I sang in the ancient Suffigio scale. I sing in these equations of the mathematical equation of creation, which at the time I mean, it was a process to come back. You just, it's not so easy to just come back from all of that and be the being that you were. I wasn't the being that I was anymore. I had shifted dramatically after coming back.
That's fascinating. This is quite an experience to hear about, and um, because of my background in music, combined with my fascination with who we are in the afterlife, near-death experiences, it's kind of like a big. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm getting close to 100 episodes in, and I'm thinking, of course, I'm going to speak with you around this time. It just all makes sense to me. You talk about synchronicities. Music, from what I've heard from other experiencers, is definitely a gift from somewhere else. It's not just something that was decided on in our evolution, I don't believe. I think it's from somewhere else. I mean, we can all feel it. As a child, uh, I started singing very young. I found it was the one thing that kind of kept me grounded. And playing music and writing songs. I was writing very serious songs as young as 11 years old. I wrote a song called Alone at 11 years old. Instead of singing about, my favorite dog or something, I was very in touch with something deeper. And so I've always connected to music. And then my whole life I've just become who I am. My stage name online was Soul Vision, because everything I found was um, soulful. It was just soul related, like music was soulful. This is why I didn't go down the industry rabbit hole, because I had some attention in my teens, and it felt wrong. It felt, if I go this path, yes, I could do this, but it's going to be very difficult and it won't bring out what I meant to do in the music. So I went on to be independent and release 4 independent albums, working on a few other ones now. And it's always just not, it would be nice to be heard more. It would be nice to blow up in that sense. But I know the way the world works, and I keep pushing the way that the music comes to me. So I know when you're speaking about all the music and the different things you do now and you came back in music as a musician and singing, but before that you weren't, and that to me fascinates me. So I wanted to just bring that up first, and we can speak on that. But the experience itself, it's interesting. You said a few things that really I just want to touch upon. You said that when you were leaving, it felt like riding a bike. So there's a familiarity. I get that a lot from the near-death experiences, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, of course, like you know, it's just an automatic knowingness that this is something I've done or do. That's always fascinated me. Again, I haven't had near-death experience. I've had some spiritual experiences, but not that. And so I've always been fascinated how people right away feel connected to that it's something they've done. It's interesting how you went just directly to the light though. Some people kind of stay here for a bit, they look around, they see their loved ones. You're just like, okay, I'm going right to the light. So it was very familiar to you. So you've probably done this a few times, I would imagine, and you knew exactly what you were doing. I just wanted to speak on that. And the interesting thing about seeing heaven, how you saw the seven heavens, that's really curious about that too. When you were in the light, was it when you were in the light that the music started coming to you, or was this before? Was it once you hit the light, when you got into the light?
When I was in the light. No, it was when I was in the light, not
Okay.
before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you
And
were
yeah.
you were on that kind of door. You were on the door of going over, and that's when the music came to you. It wasn't when you were in this plane still leaving. It was once you got
No.
there.
It
Okay.
was when I was there because it just happened. I just became immersed in it. And I didn't even realize that it was happening. No, that's not to say that you're not connecting with your soul light songs. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
That's just how, because it's there. Because, okay, because it's a part, what I've come to know, it's a part of us. this is where we come from, and it's a part of us. And when what I've come to know is that when other people hear a lot of what I'm bringing forth, the music, and it doesn't have words per se, people remember as well. They start to remember, they start having awakenings because it's a part of us.
Hmm.
It is a part of us that we are, that we came with. It's just a lot of it, when we come is we're veiled, and we're veiled for a reason, because we need to do certain things on our path, and we have certain, goal contracts and things that we need to do here.
Hmm.
And it can't all be, I don't, it's not all open up to us, but certain aspects are open to us, especially when I feel that it's part of our that it's part of our path and our purpose. It's a stronger driving force. But
Hmm.
I feel that when others hear it, they also, so many have also said this to me. It's helped me to awaken. It's helped me to heal. It's helped me through, challenging times, or it's helped me to expand on my journey and be more connected. So it's something that we remember, this music, and it's our path. For me, I mean, I didn't know that it was my path. I didn't Music was not a part of my path before. And it's interesting. I mean, now I look at it and go, wow, ooh, I had to have a near-death experience to do this,
Hmm.
because I didn't sing before. I never considered music before. I wouldn't open my mouth to sing ever, never.
Wow.
It was almost like it was off limits. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but that was something I would never consider, not even like for karaoke. I wouldn't before that go be a person to want to go to a karaoke kind of thing. I'm like, no, I don't do that either.
Mm.
So it it was quite, maybe it was finishing up part of my life. And this was like, to come back was going to be another level of my soul and my service. Because when I came back, I came back pretty shifted. I mean, I I wasn't the same. I couldn't even connect to the name that I was. I couldn't connect to that being anymore,
Mm.
who that being was. So everything had shifted. But what was very strong was that, because that was the only reason that I came back, was to bring this forth. So, and it started happening. The singing, but the toning, there was a lot of I'm also a sound healer,
Mm.
and use that as well. So that came a lot in the beginning, as well as the sounds and the tones of, creation.
That's all amazing. So that all came back with you, the sound, the idea of sound healing and that you're going to be working with sound. You could hear it intuitively. You just started kind of singing and things just started. I mean, I'm sure it happened in time. Like I look back at my life and when I was going through some issues when I was a kid and I discovered music, it was the first time that I felt I was able to connect with something deeper. So that's how I connected. And I was like, wow, this feels good. This feels good. This feels good. And I didn't really even think about people listening to me. I remember it wasn't until I had my window accidentally open one day and I was singing a song I wrote. I heard my neighbors clapping outside. And I went, what is that? And I looked outside and they're all sitting there clapping. And I'm like, no. And I shut the window. It was a really odd reaction because this was something I was feeling and it was special for me. And again, I'm only 11, 12 years old at the time. And but then I realized as I got older that oh, people need this.
Mm.
People need the sound, they need the music. Because at first it was just internal, it was just my thing and it kept me grounded. And then I started noticing the effects on other people. And so I went, okay, I got to share this. And then in my 20s, start sharing it and things like that. And but then again, it went down the rabbit hole, oh, emerging artist, because there's this thing about the music world. And I'm not against the industries and all that, but I'd never wanted to be shifted in the music that was coming through me. So I chose not to go that route. If it happened now, I think I have a thick enough skin for that to happen now, but I did not in my early 20s, in my late teens. That would have been hard for someone that's as sensitive as I am. It wouldn't have worked. So I can understand it. I can understand that you started feeling this and you started singing it. You said something really fascinating. You said you didn't feel the same. Like you didn't feel like the same person. Like you almost didn't recognize the human body, like the person you were here. Um, because that was one of my questions. I was going to ask you when you realized you're there and here, which I've been saying this for a while, that I know we're there. I find it gives comfort to people, when they lose people. There's a comfort to the fact that, hey, we're still there. We're over there. So
Mhm.
don't, I mean, it's sad to lose people. I've lost many, but we're there. And this is just a piece of one moment of piece of who we are. So did you feel like you almost became more of that who you were there and you almost couldn't disconnect from that? Is that why this felt odd? I'm trying to understand the feeling of not feeling yourself here when you came back.
I'm not alone with other beings that have had a near-death experience when we've talked about it. And when you come back, you're shifted. You are just shifted. Now, the amount of shifting is varied. Um, when I came back, and it was interesting because I thought I was spiritual. I thought I was spiritual before this happened.
Hmm.
But when I came back, everything that I connected with spiritually just it wasn't the same. Because when I was there, I was experiencing like the purity of God's source light and creation. And I saw a lot of things when I was up there too. And so when I came back, it felt contaminated.
Hmm.
And it's like I was there so long that I just I wanted I wanted the purity, the clarity of what I was experiencing. And so I was experiencing this the light, the truth, the purity of the being that I was. Because I think I was shedding up there when I was communing in the light and in the frequency. And then to come back, I'm I don't feel
Hmm.
the same.
Hmm.
I'm on a I'm in a different trajectory. Uh, I'm going to sing now. Of course I'm going to sing because that was very powerful. That's the most powerful experience that I have ever experienced in my life. I'd had spiritual awakenings and things like that, but not like this. This going to the light is different. Uh it's just powerful. Um it changes you. Um you're you're back. You are the being that you are. You're you're with you're with God again. And however that is, whether if I mean some people, one of my good friends, we have a near death experience group, and she went to heaven. I didn't go to heaven. She experienced the divine beings there. I didn't experience that. I experienced the light and the communication with the light. And but I also experienced how important it was who we are, what we do here, and the effects that it has on this planet. Um, we spent a long time communing about love and a particular way of love and God. And that was kindness. we spent a long time on what that looks like and why that's so important on this planet and how that brings God here and love here. And they told me that kindness is God's love in action.
Mm.
And even all different kinds of acts and how important they are and how they change the world. And so when I got back, because of this frequency, I wasn't I it was like I wasn't the same being per se anymore. And I also had to go through a purification. I spent months purifying myself because it's like my being needed to house this frequency. And how could that be without it? It just was automatically. I went through this purification that was really intense and extensive. And during that time, the experience was so dramatic for me that I did seek help. And I went to a near death experience group that was at a hospital. And it was a very large group. But at the time, I felt I needed help. And I went to that group. And what was interesting is when I first went to that group, I remember I said to them, I told them my name and I hadn't changed my name yet. And because it had been so soon. And then when I went back, because it took me a while to go back. And then when I went back to that group, I told them a different name. I told them I was Shekina. Because during that process, I went through such purification and I believe it was Shekinah that gave me my name. And because everything is vibrational frequency.
Mhm.
So I wasn't resonating to that name anymore. It's like I had a different frequency and vibration that was more in alignment with who I was. And
Wow.
I was given that. And I feel that assisted me to like be here and be like present in this body and in this life and to um, bring forth um, my purpose, my service in this
Mm.
world.
So I love all that. You basically, so you actually changed your name to Shekina after the experience. That's how profound it was to you. You didn't feel connected. And it's interesting. We all walk around with these names. I'm Joe. We have these names, these labels we've been given from our parents. And at times we just completely identify as that name, but we forget that that's just the name. It's just the word that we were given. So there is nothing wrong with changing your name to something that feels more in alignment with who you are. So if there is a switch like that, I can see how that can happen. You said that you were talking about the closeness with God, and I wanted to know, this might be a difficult question to answer, but maybe you have some insight. I know that you do work with people, and besides those types of things, we can talk about what you do there in a moment. I don't know if it's around the music side of things or frequencies. I don't, you said you worked in sound healing, but if there's people just listening and, they're doing things in their own day to day, what do you believe is the best things or thing we can be doing to get closer to God without having a near death experience?
I meditate. I allow myself time with God and the presence of who I am. And that's also spending a lot of time in nature as well, or just in my own presence,
Mm.
meditating, um, praying. I pray. Um, You know, it's everything. It's interesting. It's like everything of your life. So we were talking about it's I care about the presence of my beingness because I, I'm a part of God. Like we're a part of God, and so I work on keeping myself clear, and that's with what I expose myself to, what I watch, the people that I'm around, what I read, the food that I put in my body. It's really important because I'm an ultra sensitive empath, and those things will affect me. Um, all these things, certain kinds of music. I mean, I don't know the music industry because I've been out of it for such a long time because my guides a long time ago told me that I needed to disconnect from this world and to find out what the truth was, the real world, which I didn't really understand what they were talking about at the time. Um, so it's kind of like everything. And it's, my thoughts, making sure that I'm in alignment and kind and loving with myself and others, and what I listen to. So I'm not going to be listening to, I mean, I know there's been pretty intense music that has developed over the last couple of decades. I mean,
Hmm.
really intense stuff. I have, but that all affects you. Like all of that, like your environment does affect you. So I, s- I take care. I take care of my body. I take care of my spirit and what I feed myself. And but I have a practice, and whatever practice that is, some people need to be in water, they need to swim, and they need to do this. I have practices as well. I have certain practices. I do prayers and meditation and connections in the morning because I want to feel when you get up. And there's certain times I feel that are more powerful than others. For me, when I wake up, it's like you just came from the other side again.
Mm.
And so that is a good time to spend a little bit of time in however you can, like prayer, meditation, and however the meditation that you need, whether it can be on your own or if you listen to something, or it's just like music. Sometimes a frequency in music can just put you there in that place.
Mm.
So I do that. And then at night also is I will clear my field a lot of times. I'll keep my field clear too. I kind of like, because I'm a sensitive empath, I'm kind of aware of my environment and what I can do and what I can do. And I'll do a clearing in the evening before I go to sleep. And
Wow.
again, spend time in nature. It got warm. It got warm yesterday. I was finally able to go out to the land. So just being out there, I could feel my spirit like come. I was felt that peace just being out there.
Hmm. Okay. See, meditation I know is huge, and as soon as I started thinking about it, I know that the way that I've connected is through the music, and everyone has their own way of doing it. Like there was almost like this understanding of, Joe, go back, get in alignment with your music, and you're feeling closer to God. So you, when you're okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the way that you work with people. Are you using music with singing or with sound? I'm curious how, because eventually I would like to know a little bit about what you do in regards to helping others kind of come into tune with themselves, and if you use music as that instrument to align people.
I do. So when I work with clients, I work with a lot of ultra sensitive empaths, and I do soul readings, I do DNA upgrades, I do a lot of various types of work. And when I do this, I use prayer, um, and I have specific like attunement prayers that I use that was given to me, and I absolutely use the sound and the music and the frequency because that helps me. So I spend a little time with the person that I'm working with, depending on what the session is, what they need, and I'll tune in to them and I'll set everything up with the prayers and the alignment. But when I get them on the phone, then I start doing the frequencies because frequency, I can direct the frequencies. I know how to direct the frequencies to um, make attunement alignment. And um, then I bring in the frequencies. When I'm with the client, see, I can hear the frequencies that need to come in for them and how we will open up the field. So I listen to that and I bring in the frequencies, and then I start to be able to see. I get to see their spirit, where they're at, where they need to be, what colors they are, where their guides are. Their spirit a lot of times will tell me things, their higher self will tell me things, or their person will tell me things. But I'm always using the frequencies. And then when I get more information through the frequencies and the music and the sound, then I make the adjustment because it gives me information as well. Then we do like attunements. And then I'll bring in frequency and I'll bring the song, the sound, but it's because of them. They're actually giving that to me. The field is opening up for them, and I will attune to that, and I will hear that, and I will bring that forth. Sometimes it'll be an actual guide or an angel or some kind of being that will start singing through me. That's their guide or their connection that will give me the sonic or the tone. Now, if we need to clear something, then it'll be a different kind of frequency. Because the thing about the songs and the frequency is that it can change you, it can shift you instantly. Like one tone can just take you from here to there.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it could break a pattern for you, like literally, like a long mental pattern, emotional pattern. It
Mm-hmm.
can instantly shift it because everything is vibrational and frequency and
Yeah.
music and sound. Or you could say music and sound or the music of creation. And I think it's interesting how you have the music, like you hear the music and you bring the music forth. That's part of your service here, your path here. And it's interesting that I feel that the world is more open to this frequency and the sound than we ever have been. We're
Mm.
learning more about this and the importance of this, a frequency and vibration, and how to utilize frequency and vibration. Because frequency and vibration and sound healing, I mean, it can heal your DNA. It can heal what they call cancer or, dysfunctional energies because everything is it's like we're living because of frequency, we're living in a like there are no incurable diseases. There are no situations that cannot be solved. Like literally. That's what I've learned in the music of creation because everything is vibration and frequency and sound
Mm.
and has a resonance. And what are we all this awakened community? What are they all saying? They're always saying, raise your frequency and vibration. What does that mean?
Right.
And but it seems like we're so much more understanding of that and ready to receive the frequency and vibration. if we could just tune into that, and but realizing, oh, that has a frequency.
Hmm.
This sadness that I'm in, or this thought, has a frequency. I just need to adjust the frequency. It was interesting when I got back from the light that not too long afterwards, I was asked to do like a sound healing at this event. And it was all synchronistic because it was one of my friends. And when I was there, I did these sound frequencies and these healings, and I was recorded. They recorded me, and I put it out on the net, and that contained all the ancient Solfeggio frequencies, the
Wow.
pure tonal notes of creation and the mathematical equation of creation. And sometimes there have been times when if I was feeling a little bit, I would go listen to it and I would shift. Like,
Yeah.
wow. So it's like, wow, it's these frequencies are real. And I feel that um, I think we're ready more to understand this frequency vibration and the importance of it and how we can utilize it in our lives. I mean, Mozart and Beethoven, I mean, that music is still today, we can still be healed and enlightened by that music because that was
Hmm.
to a different musical scale. I don't know if you know about the musical scales. I didn't really know about the music or the scales, but a scientist, a physicist studied my vocals not too long after I got back from the light. And um, they said that I sang in all these frequencies, the ancient Solfeggio scale, all the six pure tone notes of creation. One was the 528 hertz of miracles and transformation. I didn't understand what that meant um, back then, but I do now because that musical scale, you probably know about that. It's
Hmm.
come back to us because
Yeah.
it was lost, and then it was rediscovered by some doctors, and they
Hmm.
wrote a book on it. They brought that musical scale back.
Yeah.
So it's like the music, almost interesting, right?
Yeah.
In our era and our time, the music and the frequency is coming back. It's coming back through us, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I've even seen artists that I follow who are changing the way their guitars are tuned to match different hertz and all kinds of different things that people are doing now because I think people are recognizing it more.
mhm,
I have a very strong, not an opinion or outlook, but I look through my life of music that I've created and written. And as a child, as I was saying earlier, I wrote very serious music, and some would say it was sad. Um, but some of it would have been releasing, releasing
mhm,
those frequencies, releasing those feelings. And I've even I look over the four albums I've done, and I see the changes in the tone and the frequencies of the music I wrote. Some of it was very sad, some of it was more melancholy, but with a soulful nature. Some of it was happy, and there's all these ups and downs. And even recently I'm going to release this album, which I'm not even going to announce. It's just going to come out because in the past 3 4 years I went through some of the most difficult times of my life. And when you're in those difficult times, you're not singing about rainbows and horses. Things get really deep, and that those energies are coming out. And instead of me going in the studio and redoing all those songs to put on an album, I'm just going to release them as they came through at the time because I don't want to go into that place right now because I feel like I've now gone into a different uh, frequency or a different mode. So I can relate to all this because I want to now work on some things that actually feel and speak to me now going into 2025. So that's why I'm going to just release all these thoughts and feelings I had in the past 3 4 years. And it's a very naked feeling to do that because they're going to be raw. It's going to be very raw and just what came out when I was, and some of the words don't even make sense. Some of it's just sound out of my mouth. Some of it, the words do make sense. And that's how I roll. Generally, I would take that and redo them if I'm still connecting. But because I'm not connecting to a lot of that stuff that I did earlier, I still feel like it's necessary to release it
Mhm.
because some people need to feel and hear things. And I don't share often much about my own musical journey, but I will share one thing. For a long time, I didn't know the impact my music had, and I was doing a lot of online shows. And I had an online manager that helped me do these shows, and she wanted to speak with me after my show. And she said, I have someone who wanted to relay a message to you. And I said, okay, what's going on? And she said, this person wanted to, I'm not going to say names, but this person wanted to let you know that your song Soul Vision, which is actually the beginning and exit intro of this show, was really powerful for them. And they wanted to come back and just share the message that a year ago they were not in a good place, really serious, not in a good place. And hearing that song changed their mind. And it makes the hair on my arms go up and it makes me kind of emotional. Um, because I don't know that person. And so that shifted something in me because I was becoming this puppet of just playing my music everywhere. I knew that there was an impact, but I didn't know necessarily where. So even though that song is a very deep song, it's not this happy, fun, shining light song. It spoke to this individual in a different way. So music does change a lot for people, and it can bring something out, even if you're allowing someone to just feel something that they can't feel themselves. So I'm very much in tune with all music, and you do have to be careful of the music the environment you're around, and the music you're putting yourself in the line of fire with, because it can have effects on you. So I just wanted to say that because I can understand and appreciate everything you do.
You as well. Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable. Yeah, we need to be able to f that's the other thing. We need to be able to feel who we are. And that can be very, very healing. And what you said is it brought that person to change their mind, shift. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was probably one of the most impactful moments of my life. And it wasn't me playing on stage in front of 30,000 people. Like I've had different big moments, and it was that's bigger than anything I
Mhm,
could have asked
mhm.
for. So anything going forward, it's going to take a lot to to surpass that feeling, but it was an amazing feeling. When you work with people, is there a way people can connect with you or contact you? Like, do you have a website or anything where people can get in touch with the services you do?
Yes, it's shekinarose.com. Then go to my website and go to the store and go to sessions and see if something they feel something there. They can also experience the frequency and the music because I'm also in service. So I have a YouTube channel, and so I
Oh,
bring in the transmissions, and then I put it out on my YouTube channel, and I have a Spotify channel too.
oh wow.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
That's amazing.
So
Are they
yeah.
under your name? Like your YouTube channel's under Shaki, like
Yeah,
your
it's the YouTube is Shekina Rose. I think it's Shekina's Light or Shekina Rose. And I have a Spotify channel, so I do have music that where you can download, I mean streaming services and that as well. Like everything is I had someone come and find me who was in the music industry and kind of had an awakening with my music and wanted to help me to get the music out more.
uh,
And so started, you know, doing it more professionally. Not that I had to change anything,
mhm,
because I have to stay with, the transmissions. So they would
right.
take the transmissions and then, master it and so that it could go out into that kind of format.
That's
So,
amazing. That's amazing. So you are getting it out there, and it's in a different way. And this is the world we live in now. It's not always has to be with a huge record label and all
yes.
these different things. You just get the music out there for people to take in. Well, I'll make sure I put that in the show notes how people can connect to the YouTube channel and Spotify and all that. That's awesome. And you also have the website where you can be reached.
Hmm.
One of the things I usually finish these conversations with. I mean, I could go in so many directions with you, but we do live in this earthly time of time. But I always want to know, you're someone who's had these experiences, including that first main experience you told me about. I don't know if this is the same insight you would have had before or if you feel things different, but I always ask everyone why you believe we incarnate here and come into this physical body. Like, what is if you could sum up kind of in general, our main purpose to incarnating, what would that be?
Whoa.
That's a big one, I know.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel to experience, I'm going to say it, God, our God nature, um, in physical form, to have that experience. Life is life is really beautiful, sacred, and it is precious. And I know that it's challenging. It can be challenging. But there are things that we can't do on the other side either. I mean, on the other side, I mean, yes, it is where we're from. It is all encompassing, all acceptance, all love, all divine vibration. Yes, yes. But this, but this is also a part of it.
Mm,
I mean, we can't have the relationships that we have over on the other side. We can't experience God in that way. This is part of creation. I mean, it's fabulous that we can have lives, that we can experience our nature through physicality, that
mm,
we can eat and we can drink, and we can eat chocolate. we can
yeah.
we can be physical. We can love each other. We can touch each other. We can we can create here. We can have these amazing experiences for our soul. And not only for our soul, I mean, we're having these experiences, but our soul wants this. Like our soul wants to evolve. Our
Mm,
soul wants to come here. And I'm also going to say our soul, our spirit wants to wants to know God here. And however that is, wants and when I say God here, it wants to know love. We want to experience love here. So basically, we want to experience God here. And so we want to experience that through each other and our experiences. And I mean, I feel we are representing God
mm,
here. And it does matter. I'm going to say it does matter what you do. It does matter what you do. It does matter what you think. It does matter what you bring to this world. Are you bringing God in? Are you bringing, and you don't have to even say God, are you bringing love in? And is that what you're bringing to the world? Because you do bring it to the world. I mean, I experienced that on the other side.
mm,
What happens when we're not, we're cut off from God and we're not bringing God. And when we do bring in God through
yeah.
even through small acts of kindness, small sometimes. Sometimes something really small is a big deal and it matters.
Mm,
So I feel it's such a treasure and it's such a gift. And I know that I matter. I mean, I really matter. And so that means you really matter. Like you really, really do matter.
mm,
And and I also know that we can change the world. Like literally, we can change the world. I know we don't think that, but we can. And I feel that it's about us being true to who we are. I mean, when we're true to ourselves and our true essence, our light, we're being true to God. We're being true to the whole, universe. So,
wow.
because I've had many. I've had many near-death experiences. So I see the preciousness of life and the beauty of life,
Mm.
of who we are and what we have. And what we have is incredible. Like what we have is so amazing, truly. I mean, we get to, Joe, I mean, we get to choose.
Mhm.
We get to choose. And so we can but we also get to experience. I feel we need to experience the delight of this life.
Mm.
It's delightful to be informed. All of it. In you, what you were saying, all of it, all of it's beautiful.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a positive message. I get a lot of positive messages from near-death experiencers about why we're here. This is one of the more positive ones because at the same time, many people, especially how recent their experience has been, some of them are still dealing with the grief of the love they felt over there. So not
Yeah.
having it the same here. So there's a
Yeah.
disconnect. So I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. But you are seeing it from the greater, the greater place, because we really do come here for a reason. We choose to come here. What happens here is we come here and there are the highs and the lows, and the lows don't feel like home and the highs do. And so what happens is we get caught in the lows, and I think we get tired of those lows, but we have to realize it's all part of the whole process. It's all part of the whole growth process. And I just really love how you said we really do matter, how our soul wants to come here, how I've always felt that we kind of line up to be here and have these experiences, and that's part of the bigger purpose. And the other thing I always found fascinating is people, when they do go over and they get all this info, they come back, they can remember a lot of it, but not all of it. There's some things they're not allowed to bring back because it's so we only know as much as we can talk about that you can even recall. And so it is probably even grander than that. But in saying all that, we are here to experience and to grow. And this has been an amazing conversation. And just bringing it all around, I'm thankful that you've come on and shared your experience. And I'm grateful for you for being on the show. This is more than I would have even imagined. So thank you.
You're really welcome, Joe. It was really nice meeting you. And I thank you for your courage and the blessings that you're bringing forth, and that you're doing this, that you're doing that I feel like you're doing your soul's your calling.
Mm,
So what's happening is you're bringing more of the light of God and love into this world. When we follow that, we bring God in. I saw that. Like, I realized, I'm like, wow, I bring God into this life. I bring this light. I can choose to bring this in by who I am and what I do,
mm,
and making the
wow.
connections but it's following, but we know what's true. It's following what's true in our heart and our beingness and our path and our service,
Hmm.
because it's what's needed.
Yeah.
So I thank you, and for that, for the music, because you're leaving that frequency. You're putting that frequency here out on the planet.
Hmm.
It's like available to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're doing the same. And I just appreciate you. I thank you so much for those kind words. I always turn to the audience and say, please continue to like, share, and subscribe. That's what helps the Soul Inspired grow. Share this video if you know someone that it would help. And we'll continue to bring amazing guests on. And Shekina, again, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
So